This podcast is brought to you by Radio 786.
Francesca Albanese, her voice has become a beacon for justice in very, very turbulent times. Her work, through and with the United Nations, Albanese reminds us that law alone is not enough. It should be accompanied by courage and principled action from states. So talk is cheap, but we need to put our money where our mouth is, and we need to do something, not just talk about it. And she's on a tour in South Africa, visiting sites significant to this country's battle against, an oppressive regime. And right now, we want to welcome very warmly Francesca Albanese. Welcome to Radio 786. Good morning. Thank you for being with us.
Good morning, South Africa, and thank you for having me in your really, really beautiful and special country.
Thank you very much. We are very pleased to have you this morning. We've been excited about it. We've been talking about you the whole morning, and there we go. You are on air with us. You've been working in Palestine for a long time. You've been there prior to October 7th. What have you noted in terms of the escalation of Israeli violations during that time, and throughout the past 2 years? Things have changed. What can you share with us?
I know that this is going to be understood in this country better than anywhere else, because you know what apartheid is. Even the generation that it's called here born free. Can you really be free so quickly, so easily from a vicious apartheid regime? And I often say South Africa has given the world the term apartheid to describe the last 50 years of its century-long settler colonial occupation. But this is what Palestine shows, that if you let injustice festers, it goes just worse and worse. It didn't start on October 7th, of course. The Palestinians have been dispossessed, forcibly displaced, oppressed since the British set foot in Palestine. The British here, like in Palestine, have always shown their habit to give away lands that were not theirs. But there, in Palestine, it continues. Since 1967, Israel has continued to expand beyond its borders, and it has maintained a military occupation that has entrenched the apartheid much more than in other places against the Palestinians. And because the Palestinians do not want to go, do not want to be displaced, do not want to be dispossessed, they want freedom, they want rights. This is why they keep on being pushed away. And look, there is no way for me to shy from condemning the violence against Israeli civilians that has taken place on October 7. But this is why so many in the human rights movement were saying and have been saying for decades, please stop the occupation, dismantle the occupation, stop trading with Israel, stop providing weapons, because the situation sooner or later will explode. Well, it has exploded.
Yeah, and some might think it inconceivable. Some people might not really understand it, but why is the oppression, the murder, and the starvation of Palestinians such a profitable occupation? Earlier this year you released a report listing the companies complicit in the Israeli genocide, but there's money in oppressing and murdering and starving the Palestinians.
Look, the thing is that it's not that they are profiting from the murdering. They are profiting despite the murdering. Many of these businesses do not care. And this is bad enough, but also the states that represent us do not seem to care. Because look, to be very honest, and this is the last report that I wrote that I will present tomorrow from here, from Cape Town, because I'm not allowed to go to the United States because the United States have banned me, have imposed financial sanction and travel ban on me for my work of the documentation and denunciation. But the thing is that even member states have not done what they were supposed to do. And again, this resonates with apartheid South Africa. I understood it so clearly these days. Let me just explain. Had member states complied with international law, as Israel was building settlements after settlements, displacing and segregating the Palestinians, here you call them Bantustan. They're the same. Palestinians in Gaza or in the West Bank, in small areas, have been confined while their land continue to be taken. Why Italy, South Africa, Europe, other Arab countries, African countries, why they have maintained relations with Israel? Why they have continued to provide weapons, to buy weapons and security systems that also make our own society less secure? Why they have continued to trade with Israel? So even in South Africa, I'm such a strong supporter of your government because I really say South Africa has made history by filing a case at the ICJ. It has not just filed a case, it has changed the history. It has brought the first settler colonial genocide to ever be litigated before an international court to that court. And so it has given also the possibility to others to join. But the thing is that how powerful are governments representing the people? Because then eventually business continues as usual. South Africa continues to export coal, which is what is not only, it's connected also to a problematic situation of mine workers in the country. It's also what is powering the killing machine of Israel. So you understand the connection between financial, economic powers and crimes is so deep. And this is what we need to understand today. What Nelson Mandela used to say, our freedom is not complete without the Palestinian freedom, is not a rhetorical statement. It means that if there is injustice strangling a people because of financial profit, because of financial gain somewhere, sooner or later, that system might hit you, because that system will continue to grow. And this is the essence of settler colonialism. Settler colonialism has always been driven by private interest and sustained by private interest. So profits count more than our life. And this is why altogether we need to stop this.
Right, and I think you're pointing out a very important component here in terms of the member states. I mean, even the formation of the United Nations, the Security Council. What's the point in having member states and people who sign on to accords who are, in essence, not willing to act in that way? They look at the economics of justice first. And if the economics are not in their favor, then justice doesn't matter anymore, right? So it takes political will to make a difference. And you rightfully point out that even though South Africa has taken steps, and we are proud of our country for having gone to the ICJ and for having furthered this, this mission of bringing justice to Palestine, but still on the back end, there are still coal transactions and other transactions between South Africa and Israel that need to be attended to.
Yes.
You're listening to Radio 76 on 100.4 FM, and we're in conversation with UN Special Rapporteur on Palestine, Francesca Albanese. Francesca, you've been very vocal about the importance of justice through international law. And for ordinary citizens, those wheels might move very, very slowly or have simply just stopped or failed in terms of the Palestinian people for nearly 8 decades. What other avenues can we employ to ensure or to address the justice or the injustice in Palestine? Because like I say, in some cases it's big, it's global, but for ordinary people on the ground, things just don't seem to move as quickly.
Yeah, but look, the situation is not different in Europe. In Europe, this is the first time in history that there is a global movement in solidarity. Not in solidarity with the people of Palestine against apartheid. So let me rephrase it, because the first global solidarity movement was for South Africa against apartheid. But here's the thing, people, now the economic situation, including in the global north, which I call the global minority in Europe, in the US, is much worse than it was 30 years ago. And so people do start connecting the dots. They do see that the system that is oppressing the Palestinians has a reverberation in our continent. Let me explain. How do we explain the fact that, for example, in Italy, my own country, and in Germany, the police has been beating in Germany in particular, but in Italy it continues, and in other places as well, like in the UK. How come that those demonstrating peacefully against the genocide and asking for justice are beaten up by the police, are accused of anti-Semitism? What does anti-Semitism have to do with it? Are accused of supporting terrorism, peaceful demonstration? This is the thing, because today asking for freedom is challenging the system, and we are victims of the same system. And I understand it even better coming to the country. I've been in Soweto. I've been traveling from the airport to the city center in Cape Town, and I do see. I mean, you do not need to be a Nobel Prize to understand that the legacy of apartheid has not been undone, and this is why we need to connect the dots of the injustice in Palestine and injustice that has not been entirely uprooted. Of course, here the situation is better than 30 years ago for many people, but it's not accomplished. It needs to continue, and you will not deal with apartheid in its entirety unless you change and you dismantle the economic injustice that has underpinned settler colonialism and apartheid. And this is why I'm saying, look at Palestine today. Palestine is a testing ground for weapons, for surveillance services that then Israel sells abroad to governments to become more aggressive. This is the challenge we have today, standing united. And what I tell the Palestinians, for example, what I would tell people, what I've been engaging with as I visited Soweto, well, I mean, why a person in Soweto should feel that he or she has something to play, something to care for why he or she should care for the Palestinians? Because we are in this together. And my dear friend Tlaleng Mofokeng, a South African doctor who's also a UN Special Rapporteur, once she told me of the last years of apartheid, I recall the pain in my leg because she had been shot in a leg by apartheid police, if I recall correctly. She says, I remember that pain, the pain of my family fighting against apartheid, but also the support we got from the people abroad. And this is what humanity is. Humanity has already risen once to help dismantle apartheid, to start dismantling apartheid in South Africa, and the job is unfinished. We need to help liberate the Palestinians, and the Palestinians will continue to finish the dismantlement of settler colonialism for themselves, for South Africa, but also for all of us.
Yeah, and you started a trend. You talked about the global minority and the global majority, and you pointed out to the northern countries as the minority and the southern countries as the majority. And settler colonialism has led us to believe that even the map of Africa, for example, was so grossly underestimated and drawn in a way that made the continent of Africa seem almost inferior to, the Western countries, Europe and North America. And, the settler colonialism has really messed with our minds. And I think what you're doing there is helping to unravel that and to reset us in a sense. So we've seen a concerted effort to silence individuals, media, universities, even yourself. You've also been threatened in many ways, and I mean, even delivering a letter to you from justice at the behest of the US. All these things have been done to you.
Sorry, let me interrupt there, because I was not giving any letter. Just for the record,
it was not delivered.
Any letter? No. Absolutely.
All right.
I just heard that there was an attempt. Is disgraceful, but I'm so glad. You see, the government intervened promptly. Of course, the system tries to silence me. But Can I ask you something? Don't you think that even the legacy of Nelson Mandela is being silenced? And then I will say 2 words that mean to me regarding this division, West versus the rest. Look, because in a way, today, especially in my part of the world, I don't know how it is in this continent, but we like to remember Nelson Mandela as this old, cuddly man, always nice. No, I mean, I remind people, no, Mandela's been a fighter for his country. I mean, you don't need to have a rifle in your hands to be a fighter. Justice is asking for justice, asking for rights. Being a lawyer, in fact, gives you the weapon of enlightenment, of reason, and this is very much here. People asking for their rights today, or asking for rights and justice, including for other people. This is my case because I'm a UN Special Rapporteur denouncing the genocide that is taking place in Palestine. Of course, they have to be silenced. But here's the thing. We need to understand the system we belong to understand how to stand together and advance justice for all. There is an incredible historical acceleration right now. And if we understand how to act, changing ourselves, for example, from what we buy, the BDS has helped a lot South Africa, the boycott, divestment, and sanction movement. Well, we need to be very coherent. What we buy shouldn't go to sustain businesses who profit from unlawful occupation, apartheid, and genocide. So I've written a report about that, but that report is not a list. I always point to the BDS list of companies. Or the other thing is that we need to make sure, for example, when we protest, what do we do? Which streets do we take? Here, it's necessary that ports in this country, like in my own country, ports do not become the exit point for goods, all the more weapons or coal toward Israel. So that instead of taking the street, just help the dockers in ports. It would take 1 month of strike worldwide to stop the genocide. And this is the thing, I know that the distinction between West versus the rest is fictitious, and it's to make us stay against one another. Look, I'm European, I'm Italian, and I do what I do because I'm a conscientious European who is aware of what settler colonialism has done for 500 years to people in Latin America, Africa, and Asia. But I can tell you that before inflicting this suffering across continents, this idea of racial supremacy has killed people and has subjugated people in the European continent itself. For how many centuries where people who were standing against the system, including women who were accused of being witches, have been burned alive. Think of the Inquisition, for example. So what I'm saying is that, especially today, the young generation, and I hope people in South Africa and in the continent have seen this, the younger generation in the US, in Europe, in Australia, in the Settler Colonial Club, has been the first to stand against genocide. This is a much less ideological and less racist, I hope no racist at all, kind of generation. And so there is hope that things are changing really, including in the global minority. So we need to really center the discussion around who we are as human beings without differences of color, of race, of gender, but of course, without forgetting the wounds of the past and the colonial wounds and the apartheid wounds. So we also need to understand that many people are enraged, and we need to take care of each other's pain and each other's trauma. This is what I think. This is why I say, yes, international law is fundamental, but international law without compassion is just an act of formalism.
So, regarding lawfare as a modern tool of war, how can institutions, guard against misuse, while still upholding justice?
Yeah, you see, it's critical that those who have the means, those who have power, because they control weapons, for example, they control, large weapons, or because they control large amounts of wealth and capitals and businesses, the multinationals or the pharmaceutical, or those who control the algorithms, I often say, the way we communicate and share knowledge. Of course, they want to maintain this power. It takes a lot to renounce privilege, and we are not all San Francis, clearly, right? So when people challenge the system, of course, they find the system reacts. In the case of Palestine, those who have been advocating for justice, for the end of oppression, of extrajudicial killings, even in the West Bank, let alone Gaza, which is apocalyptic, but even in the West Bank, since October 7, 1,000 Palestinians have been killed, including 200 children. Why? Why they are not spoken about? There is no Hamas fighting there. Not that this justifies what Israel is doing, but just to say, Israel needs no excuses. And still, if you ask for justice, you're being accused of anti-Semitism. But let's stop for a second and let's unpack it. Anti-Semitism is ugly, is disgusting, is revolting, is discrimination against the Jews because they are Jews. But what does it have to do with Israel? Israel can proclaim to be Jewish, to be Muslim, to be Christian, to be Buddhist. It doesn't change anything. It is to respect the law, right?
That's
and
correct.
Because it doesn't do that, it uses the label of anti-Semitism, or now, for in the past years, also the label of supporting terrorism, in order to crush freedom of expression and solidarity, standing together. So you see, the system, yes, you're right, I agree with you, and I'm a victim of it like many, many others. We are smeared, our reputation, there is an attempt to destroy our reputation. There is an attempt to threaten us, to make us fear. Because of course, they come and always with phone calls in the middle of the night, threatening you, threatening members of your family. I've been sanctioned by the US, so they've blocked my bank account. I can't even open a bank account elsewhere. Can you realize, in this world, I cannot open a bank account anywhere. Why? Because wherever there are banks, there is US law operating. Here, like in my own country, and of course or they have frozen my assets. It's incredible. But I keep on telling everyone, yes, I'm taking a lot on myself, but I don't want to talk about myself. We still need to talk about the Palestinians who today are being genocided, and a system that punishes me because of wanting to end the slaughter and the starving of kids is a system that scares me to the bones. And I will fight injustice until the end of my days and until my last breath, because this is what I need to leave to my children, and I need to work on it today, and I hope I will not be alone. I know that I'm not alone.
So, Francesca, I want to ask you, as a person and a UN Special Rapporteur over these 2 years, covering the genocide and writing about it and watching it, and what have we learned exactly from the Palestinians?
Oh my God!
Very deep question.
It's okay. This is it's painful. It's painful because it has been an incredibly excruciating journey over the past 2 years. So I had to put a lot of myself aside, because you experience vicarious trauma, but then you say the most important thing is that we need to stay lucid to stop this monstrosity. What I've learned from the Palestinians is that I will never learn everything about the Palestinians, because no matter how they are devastated, they continue to be kind. and gentle and take care of each other. And this is why when I delivered the Nelson Mandela lecture, which I hope many in this country will try to listen to, because I say Nelson Mandela was not exceptional. I mean, the moment I set foot in this country, I realized that there is a bit of Nelson Mandela in everyone. You are really, really special people. I can tell you, being a foreigner from here. And this is why I concluded that lecture talking about Ubuntu, the beautiful spirit that describes your soul, and Sumud, this Palestinian word, this Arabic word, which means resilience, steadfastness, which has, you close your eyes and you think of what it means for the Palestinians, and it's grace. It's so gracious, despite the pain, despite the rage, they keep on being loving. And as we close this interview, because then I need to go, but love is central. We need to remind ourselves that we need to love us and we need to love each other. And eventually, solidarity is the political declination of love. And now it's more needed than ever.
Well, speaking of Sumud and Ubuntu, we listen to you very carefully in South Africa. We want to tell you this. No matter what happens to you in other parts of the world, you are always welcome here. Open up your bank account, find a residence, stay in South Africa. We love having you here. Please stay with us and stay with us much, much longer. This this was the Special Rapporteur on Palestine, Francesca Albanese, speaking in Cape Town. And she covered the Nelson Mandela Memorial Lecture this past weekend, and she spoke at the Grote Kerk in Cape Town as well. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you so much. And remember, we are one and we are together. Stay strong. Bye.
This podcast is brought to you by Radio 786.